but the ones that were most searched online in regards to payment processing. So part of the reason was that merchant services is something that I feel like you know if you know it. Meaning that even business owners mentioning merchant services isn't always necessarily something that registers into exactly what it is. So generally speaking, or what someone might think of is payment processing, is a terminal. Of course, there's other encompassing services, but that's the main one I'd say that the average folk or any business owner is going to associate with. So one of the first question was, how does payment processing work? Because I feel like when you explain something to someone about like paying
Yeah,
with
yeah.
a card and like, well, who pays and where does this fee go? Where does this money move?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
such a
right.
common question.
Yeah, it's not tangible. It's not like cash. So people have a hard time
Yeah.
visualizing it.
Yeah, like look, I mean, when people think payment processing, you're right. It's like they think of like that POS terminal, but that's just a piece of equipment that's used to read a card. That's what it is. But payment processing, like if I had to like make it in like layman's terms, like as simple as possible, payment processing is like it's like a money messenger. Okay, like I'll run you. The best way to explain it is like running through an actual transaction, right? I'll use you as an example, right? You go to IKEA and you want to buy a couch, right? You walk to the checkout, you have your box, you have the couch ready to make that purchase, and you pull out your credit card. You enter your credit card into the device. In Canada, we have a chip and pin pretty much all the time. We don't have any swiped transactions in the US. In the US, you're pretty much swiping transactions most of the time, right? You're swiping it through the device. In Canada, you're inserting it with the chip and you're putting your pin. But regardless, you enter your card into the device, and then what happens at that time, like the payment processor, what they're doing is they're communicating with your issuing bank in real time. Within fucking, can I swear? Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
Cool. I'm gonna swear a bit, right?
okay, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So like within fucking 5 seconds, right? The terminal, the processing company is communicating with your issuing bank, and your issuing bank is like, let's use what bank are you with? What credit card do you have a bank with? Do that. Capital One, right? So Capital One is an issuing bank. So the terminal is communicating with Capital One, and they're just checking to see if you have the available funds in your account to buy that couch. Say the couch is $1,500. The terminal is going to communicate with the issuing bank through the device, and it's going to request to see if there's at least $1,500 on the credit card. If there is, boom, approved, right? That's when you see that approved signal. It says, okay, yes, $1,500 is available in that card, right? And then if it were to say, like, sometimes people will pass through a transaction, it says declined. That just simply means that the processing company communicated with the issuing bank. The issuing bank said no, transaction the balance is not available on the card, declined. So that's really what payment processing is at the end of the day, right? It's the communication between the issuing bank, the payment processing companies, acquiring banks, etc. Right? And that's it, And then there's also payment gateways, right, which is a whole different thing. But going back to how payment processing works, once the transaction is approved, those funds go into what's called a merchant account, right? So you've heard about what a merchant account is. A merchant account is kind of like a bank account. It holds the middle bank account, the middle account, right before it's sent into the business owner's bank account. And then, of course, depending on the payment processing company, it could take 1 to 3 days to deposit those funds into the business owner's bank account from the merchant account.
Right. It's that middle period of holding it.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things about that, not all payment processor or payment facilitators create a dedicated merchant account for every business owner. That sometimes it's held under that payment company and they control a bit more of the funds, right? With a company like Square, for example.
Yeah, like so Square and Stripe example, those are like, there was a question that I also get a lot is like, what's the difference between Stripe and PayPal and Square, and then actually getting a merchant account. So those companies are called payment facilitators, and I'm not going to slander them, bro. They're good for certain types of businesses, like you can get a Stripe account today. Just all you need is an email. If you have an email address, you can open up a Stripe account right now, and you can open up like 5 Stripe accounts. You can open up one Stripe account, pass through a bunch of transactions, and open up a second, open up a third. So it's really easy to get set up with these companies. So it's kind of good for people that prefer simplicity. They don't really care about the rates and fees, and they just want something simple. They can get set up in like 2 minutes max, and they can start processing transactions within 10 minutes tops. You integrate the API into the website with Stripe, and you're good to go, bro. You're accepting payments. But there's a downside to those types of companies. Like they'll hold your funds for no reason. Like, and like they'll hold 35% because they may deem your account, your business type to be high risk. So one of the main differences with a payment facilitator like Stripe or PayPal or Square is they'll only underwrite the deal afterwards, only if a problem comes up, right? Whereas with a merchant account, they're going to look into your business and they're going to want to know what your business activity is. They'll underwrite first and then approve you. So that's why you see all these issues with the PayPal and Stripe and Square. And the reason why they hold these funds is, let's say you just start your business, you start accepting credit card payments through Stripe, and then you get a customer disputes a transaction, which happens all the time. It may not even be
Right.
your fault, right? And then Stripe will say, hey, that's when they underwrite the deal, right? And they're going to say,
Okay.
wait a second, what are you doing? What kind of business are you running here? And immediately they'll put a hold of 35%. If you have like a 10,000 bucks in that merchant account, immediately put a hold on that, either the whole thing or 35% of it. And then they'll give you basically, like, they'll shut your account down within 1 month. They'll say, listen, you have 1 month to essentially explain to us why your business is not high risk. They'll send you a questionnaire, but most of the time they'll just shut the account down. And so it's not as reliable as getting a merchant account.
Right. And you mentioned payment gateway before, and another top question was how payment gateway works. And if there is sort of a, do all payment processors, facilitate payment gateways, or is that a separate entity?
So most payment processing companies who process payments have a payment gateway, right? And a payment gateway, like in layman's terms, is like, it's like a security guard for online shopping, right? It's like the payment processor will do all the communication. They'll communicate with the issuing bank, make sure the funds are there to approve that transaction. And then the payment gateway is basically making sure that that credit card isn't like a fraudulent credit card, because there's a ton of people out there that will, like, buy credit card. And this happens all the time. It's crazy. People buy credit card numbers off the dark web, right?
Mhm.
And they'll just try to put through as many credit card transactions, get those funds deposited into their bank account, and then shut down the merchant account, right? And so the payment gateway is making sure that that's a legitimate card, that it's not like a stolen card. And they'll also see, like, if it's a transaction, and this also plays into chargeback protection. There's also chargeback protection, but they want to make sure that the card is not from a country that you're not frequently accepting cards from, right? So there's all these different things that play into it. But if I had to break it down in a nutshell, a payment gateway is, once again, like security guard guarding these transactions and making sure that they're legitimate.
Got you. Okay, now that makes sense. Now, for small business owners, another question is, are payment processing fees tax deductible?
100%. Yeah, 100%. They are tax deductible because your expenditure goes against your income. It's an expense that you're going to incur to run your business. Now, as far as like how much of it is deductible and like some of those minute details, like, I'm
Mhm.
not an accountant, but that's going to vary based on what type of entity you are, where you're located. But if I had to answer in like one sentence, yeah, for sure, 100% they are deductible.
Okay, that's good to know. And one of the top search questions was also, which payment processor is best for small business?
Such a
And
loaded question,
it is, because there's so many
bro.
different options and there's so many different types of small businesses as well with different needs, right? Some businesses just need a terminal, some need a POS system.
So, like, if I can just like kind of rephrase that question for you, you mind if I do that? Like,
No, no, of course,
because
that was the exact question that people
that's the
most type
question.
in.
Yeah, it's hard to answer that question as it's phrased, right? If I had to rephrase that question, it wouldn't be necessarily which payment processing company is best. It would be more like, um, so how can I answer this question? So I would say that it's not necessarily which payment processor is best for small businesses. It would be what payment processor is best for a specific vertical and the way these business owners are conducting their business, how they're accepting payments, whether it's card present, whether it's online. What kind of vertical are they in? Are they running a restaurant? Is it retail? How frequently are they taking transactions, right? Are they taking small transactions but many throughout the day? Or are they taking, one or two transactions for like 5 to 10 grand every month at like a contractor, right? So it's a hard question to answer.
Right, right. I think the best way to answer that question is with more questions, basically, sort of understanding,
Yeah,
well, what sort of business structure are we working with and
yeah,
what are the needs? And then there could be
yeah,
something that could
exactly.
facilitate that.
Yeah,
That's right. That's a
exactly.
good question. How do you use AI in your personal life and business? From, we've talked a little bit before about automation, Zapier, Make. Kartra and GPT. What are sort of the things that you look for in terms of personal life? Is there anything that helps you save time and also saving time and money in the business as well?
You just nailed it. It's all about time, right? For me, and let me just preface this with I am not an AI engineer. I'm not me. I'm a business owner who is good at using computers to a certain extent. And the way I use AI personally is right now to save me time and to delegate certain tasks, right?
Mhm.
But which also encompasses saving time, right? Like so first and foremost, and this is very basic. So how do I use AI? So first and foremost, I use AI pretty much Google on steroids. That's like the main thing, right? And it's very basic for people that use AI. But ChatGPT, I got the app on my phone, and before when you're looking to answer a question, whether it's something about marketing or you just think of a topic and you're like, man, what's the answer to that question? What would be the let's look like 30 years ago, right? Encyclopedia. You get an encyclopedia, you're flipping through the pages and you're trying to find these pages that are in alphabetical order. The next phase in that evolution was like Google, right? Google also requires a bit more time because you got to type in a question on Google, right? And then you get a ton of results. You got to go through each of these pages. And you know very well, most of these pages are trying to sell you something. So a lot
Yeah.
of that information is biased, right?
Right.
Now it's ChatGPT. It's on your phone. I don't even type, right? So now I'm eliminating the need to really type with my fingers. Go ChatGPT on my phone. I click on voice command and I just ask the question and it gives me my answer in real time. Any question I have, imagine that for a second. If you would have told people this fucking 100 years ago
Yeah.
that you know, it's like insane. All the knowledge in the world in the palm of your hand. So that's the number one thing I use ChatGPT AI for the most. It's ChatGPT, pretty much using it like Google on steroids. Okay. The second thing, honestly, ChatGPT is, I would say, copywriting. Of course, there's a lot of like, I use it for copywriting, but there's a lot of, okay, so when I say copywriting, I mean like when I'm creating a webinar script,
Mhm.
example, right? Or like if I'm looking to put out some content on social media. Or additionally, I have an app called engage.ai, right? Which I integrate into my social platforms. And it helps me not only fix the grammar when I'm responding manually to a comment or commenting on a post or posting something, it fixes the grammar for me. It rephrases it in a specific tone that I prefer. So any type of copywriting, I love ChatGPT. Now, don't like this drives me freaking crazy, right? I'm on even when like I'm spying on my competition's Facebook ads or
Mhm.
like when I'm on people's social medias, can tell that you just wrote one question in ChatGPT. Example, please write me a social media post about payment processing, right? And they literally just take the exact response and they copy paste it into Facebook. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, I could tell. Like, it looks horrible, right? I could tell this is generated from ChatGPT. Additionally, like a lot of people are creating ad creatives, any type of photo. They're using AI to do that right now. And it's just, you can tell, is what I'm trying to say, right? So when you're using ChatGPT, it's all about the prompts. So like instead of just like typing in, write me a social media post about payment processing, like give it more commands. Write it in this tone. Write it in a happy, friendly tone. Um, tell it how many words you want it to be. Right. Like, there's a lot of that goes into it. A lot of research that you need to do on your own. Right. You need to understand marketing, and it's not like ChatGPT is not going to literally turn you into a marketing whiz as far as copywriting, right? You still need to prompt. You still need to use prompts like, hey, write this in a specific tone. Make sure it's not more than 50 words. Make sure there's a hook, right? Make sure that you're offering a specific value proposition. You still got to prompt it to do a certain thing.
Right. There's still training involved. There's still a way to communicate in more details, the more accurate it
Mm-hmm.
comes out. There's two things I noticed. There was one prompt I was using for Twitter ghostwriting. And basically, I was feeding it different writing materials that I had written and said, you're going to study the tonality, you're going to study the structure, you're going to study the
Yeah.
style. And I just kept feeding it tweet after tweet after tweet. And then I took essays that I had written, I took older interviews I had done, and just basically just transcribed everything and just kept feeding it. And then I said, save this as Zaid style. And then I would go in and
Exactly.
say, write me a tweet on authenticity, for example, in Zaid's style. And then it was something would come out and I would look at it, I'd be like, you know what? Those three sentences, something I'd probably say. The last two, I wouldn't use those two words. All right, let me take those two out. And then now I
Exactly,
have the
bro.
inspiration. You know what I mean? I don't have to copy word for word, but now
It's a process.
I have the foundation. I'm like, all right, cool. Because I could be
Yeah.
sitting there thinking, Instead of writing 15 different topics, I could go, give me 10 topics I would probably talk about based off all the previous written material I'd get in it, that style and everything. All right, now write me 10 tweets on this subject. And then I could look and say, all right, this 6 words here together sounds pretty cool. These 4 words over here sounds
Yeah.
pretty cool. This sentence over here sounds cool. Now put it all together. Boom, I have a paragraph I can put out. That sounds like me. Because
And
I
it sounds like
trained it to
you,
study off of me.
but what does that do for you specifically? It's saving you time, right?
Yeah,
So it's like time savings.
right.
At the end of the day, it's all about saving you time. Like, how long would that have taken you to go through that entire process? You hear me?
Yeah,
Fine?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So going back to the conversation, it just saves you time, right? Copywriting, once again, use cases right now for the main use cases, Google on steroids, great for copywriting. And then the third thing I would say is it helps me a lot when I'm creating ads, right? Whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, it helps me specifically find my target audience um, using data, customer insights. But I don't use it for ad creatives. That's another thing that also drives me crazy. Is like people use AI to create ad creatives. It just doesn't work. I could tell that it's a generic ad creative created by ChatGPT.
Right. Again, there's certain things you could use for insights, for inspiration, but the actual execution of every technical detail doesn't have to be AI.
Correct. It's an assistant. It's
Yeah.
literally it's meant to be an assistant. It's not
Right.
meant to replace us right now as far as our sales psychology, because we're human. At the end of the day, we understand sales psychology. We understand how humans operate. But that, I mean, it's a great assistant. It's meant to save you a ton of time.
Right. Now, let's go back to merchant services. Why did you go into merchant services? And if you were 18 again, what industry would you go into?
So I was actually 18 when I got into the industry.
Oh,
So so let's I'm 33 right now, right?
mhm.
It's funny to say because like I've been telling people I'm 30 for the last 3 years.
My dad's 50 and he still tells people he's 37. I don't know why that age was such a good year for him, but he's stuck
Yeah,
on it.
yeah, for sure. But it's just almost like my brain doesn't want to you know, basically accept that it's 33. But anyways, I was 18 years old. I was going to college, right? I didn't get great marks in high school. Just your typical ADHD kid. Couldn't
Mhm.
sit through a class. Definitely was super intelligent, but I couldn't sit through a full class. I was getting C's, right? C's and D's. And yeah, so then I saw all my friends head to college. And in Canada, it's a bit different. But in Canada, when you're after high school, you go straight to college, a 2 3 year thing, and then you go to university, right? Yeah. So I saw my friends go to basically like after high school, college, and I just didn't get accepted. So what I was doing is literally, and this is crazy, bro. I was working at I don't know if you guys have Zellers in the U.S. It's kind of like Walmart. No,
No.
Zellers is Canadian. So it's like Walmart. I was working like at a Walmart
Oh,
type situation. And then I was taking the bus to go to night school so that I can eventually get into day school, right? All of a sudden, so one of my friends was like, "Hey man, I got this really cool job opportunity. You need to come check it out." And it's downtown, which I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And it's in an office. And mind you, at the time, I'm literally stocking shelves. Okay,
right.
I'm stocking shelves at a Walmart, and I'm literally full time 9 to 5, and then I'm jumping on a bus, which is an hour bus ride to college, night school, right? Which I mean, good luck concentrating in night school, bro. Like, you're already exhausted. You get there,
Right.
you're just hanging out. I'm barely going to class at that point, right? So I ended up going to this job interview, and I still remember like it's yesterday. I walked into this huge office downtown Montreal, right? Beautiful office, and I see people on the phone. They're making like it's a telemarketing. That was my first experiencing a telemarketing a call center, right? And I'm like, this is sick. And I remember telling myself like, I want this one day. I want to have this one day, right? Probably 80 employees, and the sales floor was just buzzing, right? I'm like, this is sick. And so I got the job, and my first job was an appointment setter for the road team, and they were selling merchant services. This was my
Okay.
first ever office job. Was in merchant services. This was 2011,
Okay.
2010. Like it was a long time ago. And yeah, so I was booking appointments for the road team, and I had a fucking Yellow Pages book, bro. Literally had a Yellow Pages book. We were my team. We had like maybe 10 people, and we were in this small corridor, literally touching shoulder to shoulder with people. And I'm flying through this Yellow Pages book and booking appointments, right? And I was a fucking superstar. I was killing it. I was like one of the top guys doing this. Fast forward, like I think 2 to 3 months later, Typical day, I wake up, I'm heading to the office. And at this point, obviously, I quit Walmart and
Right.
I'm no longer going to college. This is the shit. Like, I remember they had this like board on the wall of commissions, people making commissions. And I used to see these guys are making like 80 to 100 grand a year in commissions. I've never seen that type of money. So, anyways, fast forward 3 months after I started this appointment setting job, I get to the office and everyone's gone. There's no one there, bro, in my department. There's not a single
At
fucking
all. No
no.
memo, no nothing.
My manager comes and he's like, "Hey, man, we had to fire your whole department." I was like, "What?"
Everybody just overnight.
Everybody. So I was like, "What the fuck? That's crazy." I'm like, "What happened?" He's like, "Listen, it just wasn't working out for this specific department, right? It's a big office, but we kept you because you have crazy potential, and we want to make you like an in-house closer." So they had a specific system. They had like the road team and appointment setters, so people to go. They went to meet merchants in person, and then they had a closing team, which was in-house. It was all telemarketing. And what this company was doing is they were generating leads in the Philippines and Pakistan and India, and they were feeding those leads to in-house closers. And they made me what they like to call a junior closer, right? And I had to basically close like 8 deals over the phone and using basically just shit data. They didn't give me leads. I just had to go through a list and cold call these merchants and close 8 deals. Pulled it off, became a senior closer, and I was doing that for maybe like 3 years.
Wow. Just closing, just cold calling and closing.
Closing deals, 3 years, cold calling. God knows how
Okay.
many cold calls I made. At the time, I was working for a company that was selling hypercoms, and they were charging like astronomical rates. They were charging, it was crazy shit, bro. It was like borderline boiler room because there was such little
Yeah.
regulation at the time. Merchants were paying like 5% per transaction. They're all calling in complaining.
Wow.
It was
That's a lot.
insane. And so that's kind of like how I got started in the industry, bro. That was my first ever experience in sales, in merchant services, and my first ever office job was in this industry.
And then you just been sticking it in the same industry ever since. Now, if you had to do over again, if you were 18 and someone said, because obviously you had the potential for marketing and for sales, right? We talked about the creative ad side with GPT and whatnot, and we talked about the sales experience here. Those two skills I feel like are universal, right? Everything comes down to sales and marketing. It doesn't matter what your
Everything.
idea is, what you
Yeah,
want to push,
everything.
it's sales and marketing. So if you could
100%.
take, like, if you knew, okay, I have the potential to be great at sales and marketing, and I can apply those skills anywhere else, two things. One, where would you apply that if you were 18 again? If what industry? And now at this age, with that sales and marketing expertise, what are some sort of general applications you could apply in other industries, like a sales and marketing coach, for example? So those are the two things I wanted to dive in. So let's do the
Yeah.
first one. If you're 18 again, what do you attack? What do you do?
So if I was 18 again, what would I do? I would do the exact same thing. Bottom line is I still feel like merchant services and payment processing is like one of the best opportunities. I've dabbled in so many other businesses, but I will say that payment processing is the best. Just getting paid residual income, anything passive income related, something that, if you put your effort in once, but then you continue getting paid month after month, day after day, for that initial effort that you put in, which was gaining that merchant account, that is where you want to be at. People have tried to sway me away from this industry for so long, but I've always stuck to it. And you brought up a really good point. Like, sales is everything. No matter what kind of business you run, whether you're running a restaurant, like today, restaurants are marketing companies, if you really think about it, because there's so much competition out there that you need to differentiate yourself from everyone else. But
Yeah,
I hate when people say, I'm a business owner, but I'm not a salesperson. Everybody is a salesperson if you're running a business. Even in life, you're constantly trying to sell yourself to people, right? You're trying
right.
to get people to like you. You're submitting your CV for a job. You're selling yourself. Sales is 100% a skill that you have to master. Bottom line, if you want to succeed in life. I have this conversation with my wife all the time. Like, when we eventually have kids, I want them to do door to door. I want them to do door to door. I want them to
Yeah,
get, used to that rejection. If you can get used to
right.
rejection and get used to asking for what you want, you'll succeed in life. It's as simple as that. But yeah, merchant services, if I had to go back, merchant services is it. And sales has helped me tremendously. It helped me start my business and payment processing. So yeah.
Okay. So now at this age with this experience, is there any other industry that you feel like you could take your sales and marketing expertise and apply it as like a sales and marketing coach? Do you see like you could sell systems or infrastructure? Are there any other industries or any other capabilities you find yourself now that like, oh, I could use this knowledge and add it somewhere
Yep.
else?
Yeah, it's exactly what I did too. That's how I sort of started looking into marketing and lead generation and online sales. Right. I had the experience in payments, so after I eventually, me and a few of my colleagues, when we were working at that call center, we're like, listen, I want to do my own thing. We branched off. We started our own company. We bootstrapped it from the ground up. Eventually, built it up, sold that portfolio, started again with my wife, built it up again, 35 employees. This was our third portfolio from the ground up, zero outside investment. But then as time started progressing, your question is, what else would I have? What else would I have invested my time in today? And you have to look at what people want, right? There's always a value proposition. What's in high demand? And what's in high demand today for any type of business is leads, right? You need leads, you need customers, right? That's in such high demand today, right? And so that's how I sort of pivoted into what I'm doing today. It didn't come from a digital marketing standpoint, not knowing the industry. I realized how hard it is to generate leads in payment processing or in any other sales type organization. It's so hard to generate new customers, new leads, and new sales. And so I saw that there was like a high demand for that. It was blue ocean. No one else was doing it. So, um, you know, basically, lead generation, sales, anything related to helping other businesses generate leads and sales. That's it. It sells itself, really.
Right. I think some of the biggest components of what's valuable, like you said, leads. People are always going to need a way to get new things coming in, and they're going to always going to need something that's going to close that one that comes in. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's interesting that when
Yeah.
you said that, like, oh, a business owner might say I'm a business owner, I'm not a salesperson. It's like, but how you do not see that if you're not making sales, you don't have a business.
Yeah. If you're a restaurant owner, you're selling your food, you're selling your menu, you're selling the experience, you're selling the atmosphere. You're selling, bottom line, you're selling something.
Which one do you think is harder, sales or marketing? Great sales or great marketing? Which one's harder to execute?
Oh, such a good question. Sales is just essentially helping somebody understand why what you have to offer can benefit them,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's helping them understand the benefits of what you're offering and presenting the problem that they currently have and then presenting a solution.
The reason I ask is because I feel like not everybody can be creative in terms of the marketing, but I feel like not
Yeah.
everybody can talk to people, can pick up a phone, can deal with rejection. But at the same time, a
Yeah.
lot of times I feel like your sales is a lot easier if there's great marketing in place. If the marketing was dope, there's not much sales needed. It's very minimal.
Marketing essentially I think marketing is harder than sales. Okay. The reason why marketing is harder than sales is because you essentially have to organize your sale only using a specific amount of messaging. Like you're so limited to the amount of messaging, right? With sales, you can go off on a tangent, right? You can easily explain to somebody why they need what you have. But with marketing, you have to do the same thing, but you have to preface it online. Fuck, it's a tough question, bro. Tough question.
No, they're both difficult. I just feel like with certain people, one is easier than the other. There are certain people's personalities. I feel like they can pick up the phone and talk to people all day, but ask them to come up with, creative video content or any sort of marketing method, strategy.
Yeah,
Because marketing is so diverse in terms of
robust. Yes,
what level of marketing we could do. What is some? Let's go back to sales then. What is some best sales method or philosophies and tips that you've learned from merchant services that you feel like a salesman or anybody that's dealing with sales in another industry could apply?
but look, bottom line is if you position yourself well and you offer a specific service that you know can help somebody out, most business owners are going to put up a smoke screen. And really, what you need to do is just get through that smoke screen, which are essentially objections, right? Your brain, naturally, our brains as humans, and I learned this in neurolinguistics programming, your brain will automatically come up with 1,000 reasons as to why you don't want something, right? It's just sort of like a natural defense mechanism. And as a salesperson, you just need to you need to basically tell that person that a lot of these things, a lot of the reasons, a lot of their objections essentially shouldn't be there to begin with. Like, sales is like just a sense of you're explaining to somebody why their objections aren't I'm tired, bro.
No, you're fine.
I'm exhausted.
Basically, why the objections are not valid in a way.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. And have there ever been any top sales and marketing books or experts you consume and look up to?
Man, a lot of them have been very cringe. Like if I look back, it's very cringe today. But just like Grant Cardone was a big one back in the day, and I know a lot of people don't like to associate themselves to like that type of aggressive, attention-seeking sales.
Mhm.
But that's really what marketing and sales is just trying to capture attention. And so that was one. But yeah, Hormozy is a great one. There's a lot of people out there. As far as books, I can't really tell you a specific book that I read. No.
Oh, no, I was just curious if there was anything that was part of your inspiration, part of your trading process. But it seems like a lot of it just came from just direct experience. Those 3 years
Direct
you were saying when
experience.
you were just
Yeah.
closing, right? And
There's no like look, books will help you to a certain extent, but the best way to learn sales is just diving in, bro. It's not putting your foot in the water, it's just literally diving in and learning through, being asked specific questions, right? The more you're asked specific questions, the better you can navigate the sales process, understanding the sales process, understanding that there's a beginning and an end. You have to get the people through the entire sales process through the power of questioning. If I can give any type of tip, it would be like just ask questions, actually care about what the person is saying, understand this person's wants and needs, listen more than you speak. At the end of the day, listen way more than you speak. I'm talking like listen 80% of the time and speak 20% of the time. And you'll get very far. Understand the sales process, ask a lot of questions, and listen. And then that combined with experience over time, and you'll just kill it in anything you're doing as far as sales.
no, that's perfect. I think that's great general advice, and I think that's a great note to end it on.
Absolutely, bro.
All right, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
I'll talk to you soon, bro.
Talk
Be
to you
safe.
soon.